Costco keeps getting in the news for being a decent company, and every time people are surprised. Let's talk about why is Costco like that? A secret heavyweight for doing things right? And by the way, this is not sponsored content. I've just worked in agriculture and food for 27 years, and every time I run into Costco out in the wild professionally, it's a good, wholesome experience. This is just free range appreciation for Costco as a company from a professional. Costco does this crazy thing where they treat employees right and keep them on for a long time. Then the company runs well because the people who work there like their job and really know what they're doing. Of course, that behavior really scares some investors. They do not like to see businesses take the time and the resources to invest in employees because they think that's money that should be for the investors. So every once in a while, some investors will reach out to Costco and say, "Hi, I'd love to buy a big chunk of your company, but you're wasting too much money on your employees. For us to be interested in buying your stock, you'd have to fire a bunch of people and cut benefits." And every single time Costco says, "No, our profits are fine, thank you." And you know that, oh wise investors, because you can read earnings reports. So if you like what we're doing, buy our stock. And if you don't, then don't buy our stock. Have a good day. Costco has been running off this type of investor for decades. But I feel like every time there are headlines about how Costco is decent and has a backbone about it, people are always surprised. And that's because Costco doesn't advertise itself on its values, it just does them. It markets itself simply on this is a good place to shop. That's so unusual, at least in the United States, because we are drowning in advertising about how this company is working to save the planet, and that one is conquering microplastics, and this one really cares about rebuilding Detroit. And those are all wonderful things. But the idea that people who would run a company would just realize treating people right makes our company work better and then just do that because it works? Completely foreign concept here in the United States. We all just know that abusing people is necessary to make a profit. Except as we can see from Costco, it is absolutely not necessary to abuse people to make a profit. Anyway, if a company behaves itself at all, we have come to expect that they should make a ton of noise about it. So that when a company is just quietly competent, we're shocked. Shocked! And I've worked in agriculture and food for 27 years. Again, run into Costco fairly frequently, just out there in the field, and it's just a good experience every time. One of the things that's really cool about them that I want to go into a little bit more, Costco, in addition to everything else they do right, is also doing a lot of the work to keep the food supply safe in the United States. Everyone thinks food safety means government regulations. But here's the thing, federal and most state level food safety enforcement has a long history of, and I want to speak carefully here, let's just say here's where most people would want your food safety enforcement to be, and here's where it actually is a lot of the time. In practice, what actually does a lot of the work to keep our food clean and reliable in the US is not government, it's private food safety audits. That's where a grocery store or a restaurant chain wants to buy food or ingredients, and they want to buy food that is clean and not going to cause outbreaks, because then the grocery store or restaurant chain gets sued. So grocery stores and restaurant chains started doing their own vetting on suppliers, the farms, distributors, and food companies that they buy from, to make sure that the food that those people are selling is sanitary and appropriate for human consumption. Grocery stores and fast food chains don't actually do those inspections themselves. They'll say, "Hey, farm or food company, we'd love to buy from you, and first you need to get a food safety audit on top of the government inspections you've already had, because we have learned through sad experience that those government inspections don't actually guarantee that the food is where we need it to be. So go ahead and get yourself a private audit, get a good grade, so we know someone actually took a closer look." Because grocery stores and restaurant chains just realized that government inspections did not always guarantee the food was where they needed it to be. So we call this third-party auditing, this private inspection system. Is it an ideal system? No, there is still room for hijinks. Downside of third-party audits is food distributors and farms are paying a company to come audit them. That means it's real tempting for those food safety audit companies to become diploma mills. Want to guess who is the number one force out there keeping those food safety audit companies on the level and not becoming diploma mills? It's not the US government, and it's definitely not the upscale chains that advertise how nice and clean and fresh and sustainable their food is. It's Costco. Because Costco checks in on third-party auditors and the food companies to make sure that the third-party auditors are actually getting in there and giving good inspections. That's good for Costco, helps them not have so many outbreaks. But it also makes sure the entire food system works better, because almost everybody has to do business with Costco once you get to a certain size. So Costco doing that work makes sure that every major farm and distributor is getting better at their job. So in a lot of ways, Costco has really been holding up the US food system. A lot of folks in the food industry call it the 800-pound gorilla in the US food system. Most importantly too, the folks at Costco are not jerks about it. They're actually really genuinely helpful. I worked for a while doing these third-party food safety audits, and one day it was my day to get spot checked by someone from Costco. They like to send their own auditors along with us sometimes to make sure that we're doing the job right. Now, something I had struggled with doing these audits and living on the road all the time was flashlights. You need a flashlight to check those dark corners for leaks, bugs, rats, whatever. It has to be a powerful flashlight, and it has to be rugged enough to handle constant travel. But it also has to be small enough to throw in a bag without crushing your laptop or getting flagged as a pipe bomb every time you go through TSA, because nobody has time for that. So my Costco guy pointed me to a flashlight that does all of that. I got it, and he was right. That flashlight was glorious. P.S. That make and model has been discontinued, but it was a Fenix PD series. Flashlight content, also not sponsored, they're just good flashlights. They're kind of like the gold standard for food safety inspectors. Little things like that make a huge difference. Costco keeps people around long enough to get good at the craft of food handling, encourages them to pass it on, and actually puts them out in the world to meet people from other companies, so we all actually get a chance to learn from each other. It's a big deal in food and agriculture, where we can spend a lot of time in the middle of nowhere and isolated just because of where agriculture happens. So we don't get that many chances to see colleagues and swap ideas. Costco is out there making sure that we all get a chance to learn and get better at our jobs together, which is really cool. To wrap it up, to most people, Costco is a great place to shop. But to people working in the food system, Costco is also a big, deep, juicy well of people who really know what they're doing and actually care. They train people properly, they hold on to good talent, and they genuinely care about what they're doing. Because Costco actually puts a lot of effort into helping its employees be good at their job and stay around, they have built a practical working knowledge base that just doesn't exist in companies that churn through employees like disposable napkins. So next time you hear about Costco standing up to investors or treating its workers well, just know it's not a fluke. That's how they've designed the company to work, and our entire food system is better and more dependable because of it. Again, this is not sponsored content. I just really like competence, especially when it comes to keeping our food in good shape.